The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee. A large crowd followed him because they saw the signs he was performing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish feast of Passover was near. When Jesus raised his eyes and saw that a large crowd was coming to him, he said to Philip, "Where can we buy enough food for them to eat?" He said this to test him, because he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, 200 days' wages worth of food would not be enough for each of them to have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good are these for so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people recline." Now there was a great deal of grass in that place, so the men reclined, about 5,000 in number. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed them to those who were reclining, and also as much of the fish as they wanted. When they had had their fill, he said to his disciples, "Gather the fragments left over, so that nothing will be wasted." So they collected them and filled 12 wicker baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves that had been more than they could eat. When the people saw the sign he had done, they said, "This is truly the prophet, the one who is to come into the world." Since Jesus knew that they were going to come and carry him off to make him a king, he withdrew again to the mountain alone. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
My dear brothers and sisters, we are listening to the proclamation of the Gospel of the 17th Sunday in Ordinary Time, July the 25th of 2021, live streaming from Notre Dame, the Saigon Cathedral. Today the readings tell us that we who have been baptized and have faith in God, we got the best of the world today. Therefore today I invite you temporarily forget about the date and time that the stories, the narration of the scriptures happened, but pay attention on how the stories that have been narrated in the scriptures are occurring in our life today. I remember 2 years ago when my sister and my brother-in-law brought their children back to Vietnam for a visit. One night I brought my nephew and my niece to a fast food store, and we ordered some fried chicken. And at the first bite, my nephew acclaimed that, "Wow, this is the best." And I asked what it means to say it's the best. And without a moment, he responded, "Because I never had it." Isn't the best an amazing that never happened before. For most of us who are still alive, perhaps, for certainly I'm sure, never lived in such difficult, lengthy moments like since we got coronavirus early last year. The length of the pandemic, the seriousness of the infection, and the wariness of people who face with pandemic around the world knock many people down. How can we get the best out of these circumstances? Many of us, sometimes including me, often think we have our limits, energy and time and resources. But the sufferers of the poor are many and everywhere. How can we help? For some people who cannot help but to make some connection between people and people, that would work to help someone. But there are some people who do not dare to move himself or herself, or to move a finger, to make even just a call or a text message to ask somebody to support. Many people. We blame that because we don't have enough. How could we share? Ask yourself, how much would be enough? Ask yourself, when will you have enough? If at this present moment you do not have enough and know what is enough, you would never ever could get it. Never ever. The present moment is the best because you and I can live well and live happily. Living well and living in happiness is not about the richness that we can show or treasure, but the generous you can be. The Gospel of John today is taken, the first 15 verses or sentences from chapter 6. In the synoptic gospel, in the gospel of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the evangelists describe the multiplication of the breads, of the loaves, are miracles. But in this particular gospel of John, John describes that what have happened was just a sign of God's love, a sign of God's presence among people. And this Johannine sign of the presence and love of God was not the glory of king or political leader who come in presence with many people who go with and serve them. Jesus has come into this narration as an alone person. He was present among the disciples. He was present among thousands of people. But his presence could not satisfy without having asked people to join him. This is a very particular detail of Johannine Gospel. Jesus invites people to share his mission. And by sharing his mission, we sharing his love. And by sharing his love, we can giving his love. The first reading that has taken in the second book of Kings also reflects how God would ask people to be. How God would ask people to be. Not need to do anything yet. To be. To be a person who cares for others. How can just a very little amount of bread can be distributed and fill many people? If Elisha retained the barley loaves made from the first fruits and pressed grain in the ear for himself and his family, could that be a prophet? Could that have been a representative of God for his people? No. Few days ago, if you went to church, or if you attend live stream celebration, or if you had a very good devotion of reading the scriptures at home, you can recall Jesus opened his kinship, family line near to all. Not only his mom, not only his brothers and relatives, but for all. Everyone can hear, everyone can come to know, everyone can practice the Word of God. He opened his kinship for all so that we can become a family. Everyone who live under this sky is a member of God's family. Therefore, it's a loving plan of God for the world, for all. There's no one is excluded. Therefore, with his aging power of being the Pope, Pope Francis has evoked a World Day of Grandparents and Seniors. In a special way, during the pandemic year, many old people have been left aside. I don't know if you remember, news put the headlines in the middle of last year in many countries. Senior people who got COVID infected didn't receive sufficient assistance. Many people have been left dying at home. They reserve all the hospital beds for those who are young, those who have the ability or capability to go back to work, make money and pay tax. Those who are useless, not on the target list of the ones who need to be supported. It's a pain. And this pain is more severe than any physical wounds, because human beings has become products. When you cannot produce, you are useless. When you are useless, we don't need to protect you. Pope Francis commented that is the sickness of our world today. And the sick needs to be cured, needs to be healed. God and only Him can do that. And God can only do that with us, because what the best He got, He has given to us. God has given us the equality and dignity of being created in the image and likeness of God. We have the same heart that Jesus had. We have the same eyes that Jesus had while He was sitting in front of many people in the Gospel of John. What did He do? What will we do? God could not feed people who are in hunger by His empty hands, but He used His empty hand to invite people to come and share. With our collaboration and contribution, we can become the best for others. Without being generous, giving and contributing, we can never be the best in our life. Therefore, the gospel today asks us to look around. Look around to see where we can become the best. I cannot be the best if I work by myself. You cannot be the best rescue if you don't need others. The Gospel of John today and the signs of Jesus' presence with His love for all the people urges us, push us to work together to maintain the unity of the people of God today. Remember, at the end of the Scripture's proclamation today, of course, it happened 2,000 years ago. But ask God today, what could God do after He went out and having given food for people? Jesus would not post a status on Facebook. Jesus would not send massive text messages to show people how many I have fed. Jesus spent time in the mountain alone by Himself and with God the Father. This is a very, very powerful reminder for us. Because in such circumstances, when people can go out and rescue people, we often go with the pride. Had I have not been there, how could people get fed? We hold such pride for ourselves that we are rescuers, we are donors, we are benefactors, and we want to request a privilege. We want to be acknowledged. is fine. But Christian charity reminds us to whom that we have done this for. To ourselves or to God? To others or to whom? So Jesus was present among those who were hungry. Reminds us this. Had Jesus lived with his pride, had Jesus was not a humble Messiah, he did not ask the disciples what to do. He would take proactive step ahead and do it himself. But he asked the disciples. He put the disciples in a moment of being creative for others. And remember, after having Philip to respond to Jesus, John put Philip into the scenario. And what Philip answered, we know there is one who has something. This is, to be honest, a lesson for us priests, and a lesson for you who are ministers. Do you know good about your people? Speaking at the level of administration, do you know the gifts of each one who have been entrusted to you? Sometimes not. This is the very, very best of God. He knows each. He knows the individuals. Therefore, God knows who is in most need of His assistance. He invites us to do the same. So I encourage you, if you live in this city of Saigon, my people, all the foreigners who live here in this city, some of you have left and went back to your native countries or other country for your work. Many of you still remain here. I encourage you, among your community, there are many English teachers who have lost their employment. There are many people, even not the same native as yours, still looking around for assistance. Name them, help them. I have received 2 requests to help, but to be honest, as I cannot give the names, I would like to remind you that don't let your help being taken for granted. Know the people who need help. And if you can certify the particular person or persons who need help, go for it. Do it. Make the connection. Make the circle of people who are not the native people here, who are the expats living here. Create the network to support one another. Even just a little, even just a meal, even just a voucher to buy, to go to the market. Each of us can contribute. Each of us, when we come together with a little, we will make it big. If I cannot be the best by myself, with God, yes, I do. Therefore, I invite you this week, don't be alone by yourself. Think of someone. Think of something. This is the best time that God invites us to come into the scenario of this sign of power. The power of love prompts an action. And here we are. God has prompted us. Let us go and do likewise.